My interest in the unexplained has spanned more than 3 decades, and it has taken me to some of the most haunted locations in the United States. As an author who writes about the paranormal and the supernatural, I have visited many of these locations. However, when I found out that Jamaica would be one of the ports of call on a cruise that I was going on, I knew that I had to visit the infamously haunted Rose Hall in Montego Bay during my time in Jamaica. The property was once part of a vast estate that encompassed 650 acres, and its history is intertwined with the dark side of Jamaica's past. The estate employed over 250 slaves, most of whom worked in the sugarcane fields that were located nearby. Annie Palmer, whose ghost is said to linger at Rose Hall in the form of the White Witch, is said to be the subject of a well-known local tale. According to the legend, Annie was a voodoo practitioner from the time of her birth in Haiti. She relocated to Jamaica to Rose Hall with her husband, John Palmer, but shortly after making the transfer, it is believed that she murdered her spouse. According to the urban legend, she did not stop there. Rather, she went on to marry 2 more times, with each of those husbands meeting a fate at Rose Hall that was comparable to the first spouse. The gruesome murders of slaves who were killed by the witch contribute to the atmosphere of the scene. Even though it is reported that the slaves she abused eventually brought an end to her reign of terror, it is alleged that she still haunts the grounds, and images of a ghostly apparition that is thought to be Annie are displayed in the entrance hall. Rose Hall Plantation, which is located close to Montego Bay, is said to be haunted by the ghost of a woman named Annie Palmer, according to a local tale. According to the legend, she lived the majority of her life in Haiti, where she was born, even though she had an English mother and an Irish father. After yellow fever took the lives of her parents, she was taken in by a nanny who raised her and taught her voodoo and witchcraft. She eventually settled in Jamaica, where she met and wed Rose Hall Plantation's owner, John Palmer. Annie committed murder not just against Palmer but also against her 2 future husbands and a large number of male plantation slaves. Ultimately, Annie was killed by a slave whose name was Taku. Johnny Cash is responsible for recording a song titled The Ballad of Annie Palmer, which is based on the myth. Cash was the owner of the neighboring Cinnamon Hill Great House for several years. Investigations. Although the passage in Waddell's memoirs simply includes a footnote claiming, Jeffrey S. Yates, assistant archivist at the Jamaica Archives in about 1965, claimed that the false story began with an account by Rev. Hope Masterton Waddell of the strangling of Mrs. Palmer at the adjacent Palmyra estate in 1830. Jeffrey S. Yates claimed that the false story began with an account by Rev. Hope Masterton Waddell of the strangling of Dr. Moore was able to draw inspiration for his novel Zaluko from the estate's various settings and characters. I have seen the cellars and the spikes that a lady owner there used for the necks of her slaves. I have also seen the bed on which the lady owner was found dead one morning after having been strangled to death on the bed. 53 However, Moore's book has an anti-slavery message, and the only scenes that take place in the Caribbean are in Cuba. These scenes do not include any of the specifics that Waddell asserts are present in the region. Waddell was himself an abolitionist, and he was writing in the context of the Baptist War, which he had been a first-hand witness to. He was also writing against the backdrop of the Civil War. He said that the Palmyra estate, in addition to the Kensington estate, which is situated further inland, was burned down as a signal for a widespread uprising. In the year 1868, journalist John Costello contributed to the development of mythology. When Costello released the tiny pamphlet Legend of Rose Hall, he was the owner of the local Falmouth Post at the time. In the brochure, he incorrectly portrays a memorial in St. James Church as being dedicated to Annie Palmer. Benjamin Radford conducted research into the urban legend in 2007, and he came to the conclusion that the tale had been dramatized and based on the title character in a well-known Jamaican novel titled The White Witch of Rose Hall, which was written by Herbert G. Delisser and published in 1929. An Annie Palmer who was not related to Rose Hall did exist, and all reports agree that she did not have a sadistic or lecherous streak in her personality. According to the author of The Rough Guide to Jamaica, Polly Thomas, there is a possibility that the name Annie Palmer was mistaken for Rosa Palmer, the original mistress of Rose Hall. Rosa Palmer did have 4 husbands, but she was known to remain completely chaste throughout her life. Mrs. Rose Palmer's husbands did not meet their deaths under suspicious or suspiciously violent circumstances. The first Mrs. Annie Palmer, whose maiden name was Patterson, was married to the Custos of St. James and was born in Jamaica. Her parents were Dr. Patterson, who was the Custos of Hanover, and his wife. She was not slain, nor was either of her two husbands. Neither of her husbands was murdered. The Pattersons had Scottish ancestry and were distantly related to the powerful and ancient family of Patterson of Eccles, which originated in Scotland. Some people maintain that, despite appearances to the contrary, sinister things are going on behind the scenes. Annie Parker, referred to as the White Witch, is said to linger at Rose Hall in the shape of a ghost, according to a local tradition. Annie Palmer was born in the Caribbean nation of Haiti. Her parents both passed away from yellow fever when she was young, and she was raised by a woman who instructed her in voodoo and witchcraft. She eventually settled in Jamaica and tied the knot with John Palmer, who was the proprietor of Rose Hall. Palmer's good luck ran out when he found out that his new wife was a skilled practitioner of evil magic. She was also authoritarian and prone to physical violence. According to the legend, she was responsible for the deaths of not just John but also her two future husbands. She also had a history of taking male slaves as lovers and then murdering them when she tired of their service. Her reign of terror did not come to an end until she came into conflict with another great magician named Taku, who was a slave. Annie is said to have placed a curse on Taku's prospective son, in law in one version of the folklore. In another, she vowed to bring harm to Taku's child. In every telling of the tale, Taku is depicted as carrying out Annie Palmer's slaying by means that include both dark magic and outright physical assault. Ghost stories. A grave on the grounds is supposed to be where Annie Palmer was laid to rest. Legend has it that her tomb was supposed to be sealed with a voodoo ritual that would have kept her spirit imprisoned for all of eternity. Unfortunately, the ritual was never performed. However, the rite was never completed. Rose Hall is haunted by the spirit of Annie Palmer, who died there. People say that they saw Palmer's ghost riding her horse around the plantation when it was still in operation. Additionally, there have been sightings of her on the balcony. Ghost hunter Hans Halser asserts that the spirit of Palmer once possessed the body of trance medium Eileen Garrett at some point in the past. How was the video? Do you like it? Post your precious feedback in our comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.